Hello everyone, this is Rito Broto from the Genuineness Users Group NIT Durgapur, the official open source club of our college, and welcome to the very next session of Hack.me. And in the previous session of Hack.me, we have learned about how to fetch a basic response using Flask and Twilio and get its message in the WhatsApp. If you have not seen the previous video, then you can feel free to see the video in the YouTube description that is provided below. And in today's session, we are going to learn about the use of the Google Calendar API to communicate the data that is being fetched in WhatsApp to the bot and communicating it to the Google Calendar and fetching the response back to it. So let us proceed with it. So in this session, let us continue to the next process. Okay, so open up your terminal, and as you know before that, Flask and Twilio requires mainly Python for running this project. So in my system, I have Python 3.8 installed in my system, the Python 3.8 version, and as you can see that I have Python 3.8.4 installed in my system, so I'm well equipped to proceed with it. So in the previous session, we have learned about how to fetch a basic response using Flask. So in this session, we are going to know about the use of APIs. So as we have told you before that an API is like an programmable interface. Application, its full form is actually application programming interface. So what is done is that it helps to communicate the data. Suppose you are to fetch a data, or you send an data and you get an, or generate some response to it and you get it back. So the use of API is very much prominent in nowadays in many projects, so we are going to use it here as well. So the API that we are going to use is the Google Calendar API. So for using the Google Calendar API, just go to your Firefox and you write here developers.console.developers.google.com. So in this, in console.cloud.google, that's you get the APIs basically. So in Google, you have a collection of APIs. It's not only limited to only Google calendars. So when you open up, you will get a screen like this. It's saying Google Cloud APIs and services. So what you have to do here is that you have to get access to the Google Cloud API, like the Google Calendar API. So you're going to search here about Google Calendar API and you're going to press enter. So next you have to go to the page called console.cloud.google.com. So the console.cloud.google.com, you will get a Google Cloud standing project. So what we're going to do here is Google Cloud has a collection of APIs, as I've mentioned before. So it is not only limited to Google Calendar, it has like Google BigQuery and so on. So you have a lot of APIs that are present in Google Cloud. So you're gonna click on the navigation menu and you're going to go to APIs and services. So Google Cloud has a collection of APIs that includes Google Calendar, Google BigQuery, then Google Cloud Database, and it goes on and on and on. So you have to go to the Google enabled APIs and services. You have to go search for the Google Calendar API. So when you search for the Google Calendar API, you will get the first result. That is the Google Calendar API. You are showing 14 results. So you have to go to the first link, and in the Google Calendar API. Yeah, so this is the Google Calendar API. So if you have the API enabled, then you get a green tick and will be followed by the written like API enabled. But in sometimes by default it is not enabled. So you have to go to the following link, that is console.cloud.google.com, and you have to go to the APIs and services, and then you have to turn this API. It will be written that enable, and you have to click on it and wait for some time, and the Google Calendar API will be enabled and for use for a particular given account. Like it is applicable for on the basis of your Google account. Like for using Google APIs, you need to authenticate it with your Google or a Gmail account mainly. So for enabling for Google Calendar API, you need to enable it first for your own project. So after enabling it, for in my case it's already enabled, you need to go to your Google account page. So so after enabling the Google Calendar API, what you need to do is that you need to create an OAuth client ID. So what is the OAuth client ID is? The OAuth client ID helps to authenticate your Google account, as I said before, to authenticate your Google account to your application. So how you need to do that? You need to create some credentials so that the bot is authenticated to the Google account, so that you get uh, so that the Google knows that it's a authenticated user that is making the changes to his calendar and not any anonymous user. So first, to create the credentials, you have to go to the APIs and services back again and go to the credentials column and click on create credentials and click on OAuth client ID. So here will be written that create OAuth client ID. So what is the OAuth client ID? Is that online authentication client ID. And click on application type. In application type, go to desktop app. You get an option called desktop app. There are other applications as well, like web application, Android, Chrome app, etc. But we're going to go for a desktop app. Name. So you can give any name. For in my case, let me give it as Hackme 2022. Any name you can give. It is it depends on the user. So you can click on create, and you can see the OAuth client ID is created. Now the client ID and secret is always accessed from the credentials in the APIs and services. You get your client ID and the client secret. I need to download the JSON file. Okay, so you click on download JSON and it will be downloaded. Okay, and as you can see here in my dashboard, that I have a new OAuth 2.0 client ID named Hackme 2022, and its type is desktop, and you get your client ID and your client secret as well stored in the JSON file. So what we're going to do is that why we have downloaded in the form of JSON, that is JavaScript object notation, is that we're going to authenticate using that file. So we're going to use that file in our application for checking. Okay, so let us continue to that. So move to your downloads folder. So go to your downloads folder basically. So go to your downloads folder and you'll get the client secret. Rename it at credentials.json. So you're gonna rename it as credentials.json. Okay. So let us now move to our downloads folder. So go to the Dolphin and go to the download section. Click on the credential of JSON. And move it to your project directory. So what is the project directory? That is the current working directory of your project. So go to Hackme, then go to the WhatsApp bot that you're creating. So as you know that we have already created an app.py and a virtual environment in the previous session. So you're gonna copy and paste it here as credentials.json. So the first stage is over. So we came to know about what is an API is and how to enable the API and why we need an API in this project, and how to derive an OAuth client ID so that we can authenticate the Google account, and so that you can use it so that the Google actually knows that you are the user, that the owner is actually making changes to his own project. And it's a very basic use need for using a Google API to authenticate using a Google account. So you should have a Google account in order to use any Google Calendar API or any other API that is affiliated to Google itself. So okay, now moving on to the next part. So let's move on to the coding part. Okay, so let us now move on to the coding part. So at first, let me first run the command ls to list all the files that are present in my working directory. As you can see that I have my app.py that is created from the previous session, credentials.json, the virtual environment, and the PyCache. So let me run source env/bin/activate. What this command does is that it helps to activate the virtual environment. So let me give you a brief description about a virtual environment. So what does a virtual environment does is that it helps to create a separate environment for your project, so that the packages or the Python packages or the files that you are using in the project, or the specific version that you're using in the project, does not get affected to the other projects as well. So actually you can install it to a global environment. Global environment is a system basically. So what happens is that, suppose you're making a project using, suppose, Flask version 2.0, and other project requires a Flask version, suppose 3.0. So what will happen is that, since they're open source repository, the Flask 2.0 version and the Flask 3.0 version are not the same. So that's why use a virtual environment for each of these projects, so that in one virtual environment you will have Flask 2.0 running, and in other virtual environment you can have Flask 3.0, so that you don't get any unusual errors. So the virtual environment helps to prevent some unusual errors, for any package conflicts basically. And it helps to run the project in a very smooth fashion, and depends upon it helps to install the basic requirements, and which usually differs from project to project. Suppose in one project you require Flask Twilio, in other project you require suppose Flask and OpenCV, and so on. So this is what is required. Like, this is for independent access of the project. You require a virtual environment. So you will write source env/bin/activate, where env is the name of my virtual environment. So you're going to click on enter, and as you can see that I have a virtual environment activated. WhatsApp bot, it's in the virtual environment, that is the project WhatsApp bot, and you have a env virtual env, and you have activated it. Now I'm going to install certain packages which is known as pip 3.8. Okay, let me tell you one thing, that I am using version 3.8, that's why I'm writing Python 3.8 or pip 3.8. In Windows you can also write directly Python pip only. If you're using 2.0 versions like Python 2.6 or subsequent versions, you can write Python pip also. So we're going to install certain packages like pip 3.8 install, and I've given a flag name upgrade, so that you get the latest version of the Python packages. You get the Google API Python client. You need the Python client for the Google API. You need the Google Auth, that is HTTP lib 2, and the Google Auth OAuth lib. So you need the 3 packages. So you're going to click on enter, and you will have these packages installed one by one. So let us now install the following packages. So click on enter, wait for some time, and it says that you will see that it is already the requirement already up to date, because I have already previously installed the following packages from beforehand. But in your case it may it will take some time to download the following packages for about a 1 MB 2 MB files packages only. So it will take some time, and you will it will be ready to be used in your virtual environment. So after installing it, I have to move on to the coding part now. So open your VS Code. So right here, code space dot, and hit enter, and as you can see the VS Code gets fired up, and you have the app.py made from the previous session. So what we're going to do is that in this session we're going to first create 2 independent Python scripts. One for creating the events in your Google Calendar, and the second one is for fetching the upcoming created events that you have created in your and get a response in the form of a string, which will be fetched in your suppose WhatsApp. So let us make some independent Python scripts first, and then we will integrate into our Flask app. So let us create another file called create.api, and create.py, and we'll create one more file called get.py. So these are the 2 files. So create.py will basically contain the code for creating events in our Google Calendar, and the get.py will help in parsing the events that were created that in the future. So before we proceed on to that, let us have a quick utilization of the import keyword, that was how is import used. So in Python, what we do is that we need to import functions that are present in other files or packages basically. So this is a very common use, like in also C++ is as we use the header files. So in Python we can also import code from other packages. So how to use them basically? So suppose I have a file called test.api. So in the test.api, I suppose define a function, suppose def, and you write glug, that is the name of the function. Okay, so def is the keyword for defining a function in Python, and glug is the name of the function, suppose. And then I write here print welcome to hack.me. Okay, so this is the function. So this is a void function. So that is, it does not return anything. It directly prints and it does not return, and it shifts the transfer control after printing the last statement of the function. So this is the function that I have. Suppose I define another function. Suppose def hello, that is the name of the function. I get a name here as an argument, and I suppose return hello, give a space and write your name, and yeah. So I define one more function in this test.api, that is the definition of another function, that is hello, which takes a name, which is basically a string. So in Python you don't need to mention the data type like string name or anything like that, what you used to do in other languages. But in Python, it automatically assigns, like if you write name is equals to 1 as an integer, it will automatically assign name as an integer. And if you write name is equals to a certain string, it will automatically assign the string data type to that name variable. So here you will return something. This is it returns a string basically. So it is not a void function. So the first one is a void function, second one is not a void function. So let us create one more file. So these are the functions that are defined in test.py, but I have to use it in another file. So let us create another file called func.py. So what I have to do is that I have to import the functions that I have written in test.py in the func.py file and run it. So this is the basic use of this import keyword. So what I write is that from test import glug. Okay, so what I'm doing, from test I'm importing the function called glug. So as you can see, what is my glug function is print welcome to hack me. So I'm gonna type here, now I'm going to call the function glug and end it. As you know that if when I call the function glug itself, it is going to print welcome to hack me, which is written in test.py. So what I am doing, I am importing the function glug from test.py. So you have to write only the test, you don't have to mention py. From test import the function glug, and I am calling the function glug. So let us see what will happen. So let me open up my terminal. Let me clear my screen first. Clear. And let us see that I have the files created. Yes. So what I'm going to write, I'm going to write Python 3.8 func.py, and as you can expect, the output is welcome to hack me. So as you can see that I have used the code that is present in basically the function that is present in test.py, and I have implemented it in func.py. So similarly, I can import the other function, that is hello, and you can write here print hello, and you cite, suppose that you write your name there. Okay, you write your name. So what I am doing is that why I am writing the print statement is that the hello will not, in this case in the glug function, we have the print statement present beforehand. So when you call the function, it directly implements the print statement. But in case of the hello function, you don't have any, it only returns the string. It does not, it does not print it. So you have to mention the print function here, and then you need to call the hello function, and you have to pass a string integer, string value. You cannot pass an integer. If you pass an integer here, then what will happen is that it will give an error, because you cannot add a integer to a string. Basically you have to typecast it basically. So you can also, for for safety purpose, you can write here str name, because you need to assure that even if name is an integer 1 2 3 4, it will take, it will convert into a string. But by default Python takes input as string, so you don't need to worry about that. But still, for safety purposes, you can do that. Or you can pass it like any other object, like a time date object or something else by chance. You can for safety purposes, you can always typecast explicitly. So let us run it now. So let us run Python 3.8 func.py, and as you can see that it's written welcome to hack.me, and in the next line it is calling the second function, that is hello and my name. So basically this is how you import functions from other files or packages. So in our case, we're going to import the code from other packages and use it in our files. And so let us proceed with the next one, that is the two scripts that we're going to write first, that is the create.py and get.py, and then we will integrate it into our Flask app, and we will run it on our WhatsApp bot. So let us proceed with it. So let me clear my terminal. So let us now move on to our VS Code, and as the purpose of explaining the import function is already finished, so we can delete the test.py and the func.py files. We don't need it anymore. So let us move to the create.py and let us import. Now what we're going to import, so we'll write from --future import the print function. So what we're going to do, we're going to import the print function from the built-in future library. So in the next, right, import we require the os.path. So what does the os.path does is that it helps to mention the project directory. Like suppose you need the reference to your project directory, right? So we're going to see what the OS does when I use it in the code. We need one more package called import datetime. So in the datetime package as well, so we're going to write. Now we have already imported the Google Auth client and the Google API for the Python client and the HTTP lib 2. So we're gonna import them one by one. So write here from google.auth.transport .request. So from google.auth.transport.request, we're going to import the request. So you need this request for for authentication purposes. So you have to send a request for the authentication. So you require the request function from the package. Then require from Google dot. Now you have to require the Oauth 2 dot credentials. You need to import. You need to check the credentials. So you require the credentials function as well. And then you require for Google Auth HTTP lib 2, not Oauth lib dot flow. You require the install app flow for install app flow is also required. Installed app flow. And then from the Google API client, you require the build one. So Google Auth, now Google API client dot discovery, you require the build function, and from the Google API client you require the HTTP error, so that HTTP dot error, sorry, you will get me dot errors, import HTTP error. Yeah, so I have imported all the required functions that are required for creating it. So let me save the file once, and then let us move on to let us call the API. So let me declare a list called scopes. So what is a list is actually like an array basically. So we are declaring a array called scopes, and in which I am going to provide my API, which is https www dot you can get it from the internet as well. This is freely available on the internet. So it's googleapis.com/auth/calendar. Okay, so this is the API that we are going to use, and we are going to store it under the list called scopes. List is basically a data structure which has to store a contiguous range of data. So what we're going to do now is that we have already imported the functions, we have already imported the packages that we have required, we have called the API. So now we're going to create a function called create event. Okay, so we'll write here def create an event. So let me call a function called def create event. So in this definition of create event, so I need what do I need for creating an event? So for creating an event, I need a starting date, a starting time, an ending date, an ending time, and basically the event name. So let me pass it as its parameters. So I write here start date, I require the starting time, I require the end date, I require the end time, and then I require the event name. So these are the parameters that I need to pass into my functions. That is the start date, start time, end date, and end time, and the event name. So what I'm going to do now is that I'm gonna manipulate. Like suppose in the basic, what we're going to use is as the RCC 339 reference. That is, it is written in the format such as suppose 7th September 2022. So the basic format that I require is 2022 hyphen space 0709-07, and the time is mentioned is suppose in 24 hours format, including the seconds separated by by a t. So what we're going to do is that we're going to manipulate the time. So for that we require the date time libraries which I've imported. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to manipulate the start date. Suppose I take the input in the format, suppose I take the input in the format 6 FEB and 22. This is the suppose my date format, and I need to change it to 2022 02 06. This is the format that I need. So I need to manipulate it. Same goes for the time. For time, suppose I get from the user suppose 9:30 p.m. 9:30 p.m. which is basically 21:00:00. So the user provides me with this, but I have to convert it into this. So I need the basic manipulation. So for doing that, we have to write here suppose start date, which is the variable that I want to, the parameter that I want to manipulate. So you have to start date, you have to write date time dot date time. So date time dot date time is that it's a embedded package system. So there is a package called date time, from whether I'm calling a file called date time, in which I have a function called strp time. That is a strip time. Okay, what I'm going to do is that I'm gonna take the string and convert it into a time object. Okay, so how I'm going to do that? So I'm gonna for using the strip time function, what I'm going to do is that you need to pass the the variable that you're manipulating. So I'm going to write the start date. So what is the start date? The start date is the parameter that I'm using. Okay, the start date suppose contains, as I told you, 6th Feb. Let me comment it out in the bottom. So like this, like 6th Feb 22. So let me comment it out. So this is the format that the user has provided, and I have to convert it to basically 2022 02 06. So how I'm gonna do? I'm gonna parse the format. So this format, so how I'm going to do is that this is represented by a %d. Okay, I'm gonna write here %d, %b, and %y. Okay, So how you can know that, like how to know that what I'm using? So you can just basically search it in Google. Basically you can go to Google and just search it like this, and you can go to the date time format that is presented by IBM, as I've told you. Okay, so here you can get a full list of what are the things that you're using. As you can see, format specifier, you can see the format specifier that I'm using. So this is the format specifier, slash percentage m slash percentage d is this. Then you can go for percentage d, percentage m slash y. So you can get the various formats that we have given. Okay, suppose see, this is the format percentage b. As I told you, percentage b is for feb. Okay, so I've used it here as well, percentage b for feb. And then 6 is for decimal, suppose the date decimal, so I'm going to use it here as well. Percentage d, as percentage small y is for the small year. Okay, so basically we're gonna use the date time format and we're gonna parse it like this. So we're gonna do it. So we have written here percentage d slash percentage y, and we're gonna str f time. Str f time is for reformatting the string. Okay, you need to format the string. It's for stripping the time so that you get the time object from a string. You are converting into a time object, and again you are converting this time object that you are getting to a string object back to a string object. So you're gonna format which I require is like this. So this is, as we have seen before, that this is percentage capital Y, percentage capital Y. Then I require a hyphen, that is 02. 02 is basically percentage m again. Okay, I'm writing in the wrong place. It's, yeah, percentage m, and then it's percentage d. So this is what I required. Okay, this is the start date. Same goes for the end date. Okay, it will, the start date and the end date will be in the in the same format, and in the I require the same formatting. So I'll just write here end date, and I'm just gonna replace the parameters. Okay, so what I've done is that I have used string manipulation. Basically what I'm using is that I have converted a string and I parsed the time from the string and converted into a time object. From that time object I again converted into a string using strf time, and using a default format specifier I reformatted the string to my desired one, because I required this. The system needs to understand the date I am giving. So if I write 6 Feb 22, the system will not understand. I have to provide in the default format, that is the year followed by the month followed by the date. So this is how the date is manipulated. And now for requirement of the time, so I suppose from the user I take in the format in such a way, like 5:30 p.m. 5 semicolon 30 p.m. Without a space, and then I need to convert it into the time of this. It will be 17:30 00 by default. Okay, I am not taking the seconds from the user. I'm not taking the seconds from the user. I'm only taking the time from the user. The seconds I'm keeping it as default. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to manipulate this as well. So what I'm going to do is that let me write it below. So I'm going to write here start time. Now I have passed the start time as an argument. I've already manipulated the date, so I'm going to manipulate the time. So start time is basically again is date time dot strp time. So what is the what I need to pass here? The start time again. So I'm going to provide with the string. So what I'm doing is that basically you can mention other name of the string as something else as well. I can start time, you can also mention it as 1 2 3 4. Okay, what it does is that the start time which I'm mentioning here is the parameter that I'm passing in the strp time function. I'm passing the argument. Okay, so that is the start date. The string which I need to the input which I'm getting as an argument from the user, I'm gonna parse it, take the format, convert it into a time object, and again converted it using a strp time to a string. So in this case, the variable that I'm mentioning on the left that I'm assigning it to is basically where I'm going to store it. So in Python you can store the string, after manipulating the string, you can store the same value in the same variable as well, so there is not much of a difference. So you're gonna start time. Okay, start time. Then I'm going to mention the format here. So I'm going to write here %i, that is the hours. Okay, this is also the file format you'll get in the internet as well. There is a %i stands for the hours in from 0 to 12. Then capital M stands for the minutes, and small p without a space. So what does it signify? That is hours, minutes, and the PM or AM. So %i refers to the hours, semicolon refers semicolons, %m refers to the minutes, and %p refers to the AM or PM. So I have parsed it, and I'm gonna use the strf time back again, and I'm gonna convert it into hours, minutes, and seconds. So what I'm going to do is that I'm not getting the seconds here, but I require the seconds. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to concatenate a default 00 at the end of the parts or the formatted string. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to write here %h semicolon %m, and I'm going to add 00 at the end. So what is happening here, let us understand. So what I'm going to parse the string as 5:30 PM. This is the string that I'm getting from the user. I am passing it here in start time. I am parsing it like %i is 05, %m as 30, %p as PM, and then I am formatting it, converting it to a time object and formatting it to another string where I have the %h, that is the hour, that is the 17, then followed by a semicolon. Then I need a semicolon here as well. Okay, %n, that is the minutes, followed by a semicolon, and 00 by default, because I'm not taking the seconds from the user because it's very irrelevant, but I need the seconds as well in the format, so that the system can understand what I'm trying to implement. So in the same case, same goes for the end time as well. So let me copy it once again and implement it for end time as well. Yeah, so I've implemented all the 4. Okay, so I've implemented the start date, I've implemented the end date, start time, end time. I passed it on to the arguments, converted them to a time object. Then I'm converting into my relevant format so that the system can understand, not in the user defined format. The user will type 5:30 PM, but the system needs to understand what 5:30 PM actually stands to the system server time. So you require to convert it into the string. So this is basically nothing but the string manipulation functions basically. Now I have to define the event. So how can I define the event? So I got all my necessary things. I got my start date, the start time, the end date, the end time, and the event name by default. No, I got the event name by default. So let us use it and create an event. So I going to create an event here, and I'm going to create a dictionary. So what is the dictionary? Our dictionary is just like a map. Okay, so what it does is that it assigns a key to a value, like it maps a key to a value, or basically it assigns a value to a key. So what is the key? Suppose I write a person, and then suppose I give the name and write my name. So then my name as a string is a value, and the name parameter is a key. So let us understand it. So I'll write here summary. What is summary is? Summary is basically going to be my event name. Okay, so I have used my event name, I have used all my arguments, so this is my event name. So summary is basically the summary, that is the name of the event. Now location. Location is going to be basically, suppose NIT Durgapur. NIT Durgapur. Okay, so let me scroll it to the left. So it's like I am creating an event whose summary will be the event name, which will be given by the user. The location is by default NIT Durgapur. You can also take an argument from the user and pass it here as well, but since to reduce the complexity of the project, we have set it to default to NIT Durgapur. Now we have to define start here. Start. So what we are going to do, we are going to define start, and we have to create an embedded dictionary. So what I am going to do, I am going to embed a dictionary inside another dictionary, because I require to start 2 things. One is the date time, and is the time zone. Time zone is very much important. Suppose I mentioned 5:30 PM. So the 5:30 PM is not the same in India and as that in America. So the both the time zones are different. So I have to mention the time zone as well as I have to give the the parameters which I have passed before into the event. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to type date time, and I'm going to give it as a string. F is stands for the raw string. So basically what I'm going to do, I'm going to pass the start date. Okay, so this is the format that I require: start date followed by a T, and then I'm going to require the start time. Okay, so why am I writing it in this format? You might ask this question, that why I'm writing it in this format. This is a format in which the system understands. Okay, it's a standardized format for mentioning time. So f is basically for since you're passing it is an argument, so it's basically helps to implement variable structures inside a string. So we're going to start date. T and Z are defining for certain zone times. It's not ISO formatting, and I'm going to give a comma. So I pass the start date and the start time, and I need to mention the time zone. So the time zone is basically going to be Asia/Kolkata. So these are not arbitrary. Okay, the time zone is not arbitrary. These are mentioned in the Google Calendar list of time zones. So I'm gonna Asia Kolkata is the nearest one. You can also set to America and to other states depending upon your location. So you're gonna use it like this for the time being, and we're going to open one more dictionary, that is end, that will be similar to that of start. So I'm gonna rate here date time, and I'm gonna copy the same string back again. I don't need to require to type it once again. So I'm gonna, instead of start time, I'm gonna pass here end time, and just start date I'm gonna pass here end date. Then for the time zone is back again Asia/Kolkata. Okay, and I have specified the start time and the end time, the event name, the location, and now I need to give the recurrence. Recurrence is basically the number of times you need to give and enroll the event. Suppose you need to enroll the event only once, or you want the event to be enrolled into 2 consecutive days, or suppose 3 consecutive days. So what I'm going to do is that I have to mention here R rule, and we go colon FREQ, that is the frequency, which is equals to daily. So what is this stands for is that R rule stands for the recurrence rule, which is FREQ is the frequency which is daily, which I want is like daily. Daily means suppose and I have to mention the count as well. So count is equals to 1. Okay, you can also take the recurrence as a parameter, but since to reduce the complexity we will take it as 1. So we wanted that it is passed as a single one, so I have to pass it as a list. This is not a dictionary. Okay, this is a list. This is a single string. Okay, so you have to pass it as a list. Okay, now coming on to the next part, we need the reminders. Okay, so you need to set up reminders, right? For after getting an event you need the reminders. So by default Google Calendars give you a default reminder of 30 minutes pop up. So what we're going to do is that we are not going to use the default reminder. We're going to set up our own reminders. So what we're going to do is that we're going to write here use default as false. We don't want to use the default one that Google provides us. Okay, we're gonna not use that. We're gonna override it. So we're going to write here overrides, and we're gonna open a list once again. Okay, we're gonna open a override list once again, and we're gonna write the method. Okay, so I will type here method as suppose I need an email. Okay, I require an email. So basically I write the method email. So I require an email, suppose for an interval of suppose minutes 24 into 60. Okay, so what he's gonna do is gonna 24 into 60, that is 24 into 60 minutes, 24 hours and 60 minutes. So for like 24/60, it will be like a day before the event, it will send an email. Okay, 24 into 60 is the time. Okay, so before 24 hours into 60 minutes, that is a day before, it is going to send me an email. And I'm also gonna give a pop-up. Pop-up is a very usual one. Pop-up is that comes in your phone basically, that join with the link. Okay, that comes as default notification. That will be like 10 minutes before the event, suppose 10 minutes before the event, not 24 into 60, 10 minutes before the event. Okay, so I've created my default event, that is the summary, that is the event name, location, default as in IT Durgapur, the start, the date time that I've created. I manipulated the string, converted to the time object in the previous one, and formatted it back to a string in which the system understands, passed it back into the date time. Same goes for the time, set the time zone at Asia Kolkata. Same goes for the end as well. Then I've got the recurrence. Recurrence is basically the number of times I want the event to be scheduled. Count is default is equals to 1, and frequency is daily. Reminders is basically the default reminders which I need to use, but I'm not using it, and I'm going to override it as the method is email 24 into 60, 1 day before the event, and pop-up is going to be the 10 minutes before the event. So after creation of the event, let us now take it up as like authenticate the user. Okay, we need to authenticate the user. Like as I've told you before, for using a Google API, you always need to authenticate the user. You want to write here creds equals to none. So what is creds equals to none? Creds is basically is going to be my check for the credentials. Okay, so I need creds. Now I'm going to check if os.path.exists a certain file, suppose token.json. So what is token.json? Token.json is going to be the file which will signify whether I am logged in or whether I am authenticated, means or not. Okay, that if I am logged in, then the token.json will provide me with a pass that yes, this user is logged in and you can perform the action on the calendar. Okay, so os.path.exist is that. os.path means the project directory. This is my os.path. Okay, I have imported os.path here. So what does os.path do? It checks whether the token.json file exists. I have already made my credentials.json file. So this credentials.json file, I will create a token so that the user does not need to authenticate again and again. If I don't create a token, then again and again the Google authentication will ask that authenticate. So to prevent that problem, I have created a token. I will create a token. So let us do, if token.json exists, that means I already have a token. In this case, I don't have a token. In case I have a token, I will write here creds is equals to credentials dot. The credentials is the function that I've imported from the Google Oauth to credentials. What does it do? It has a function called from authorized user file. Okay, so what is gonna do? What is gonna do is that creates a credential instance from an authorized user JSON file, as I told you before. So what does it does? It creates an authorized user JSON file. So the JSON file is token.json, which I don't have. So for now I am unauthenticated. So credentials from authorized user file, I am gonna write the token.json. I'm gonna pass the token.json as mine, and the scopes. Scopes is the API. Okay, the scopes is the API that I have passed here. Okay, API that I have passed here. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna pass the credentials, like if the token.json exists, if the user is authenticated, then authenticate the API with the JSON. Now if the credential is not there, if not creds, that is if the credential is not there, in this case the credential is not there, or the credential is not valid, creds.valid, that is the credential is either not valid or the credential is not present. So what I'm gonna do is that I need to create one. So what will I do? So in this case also I have one more case, that is the credentials might be present but the credential is expired and the credential, I need to refresh the token. Okay, this can be a case that I don't have my credentials, I don't have any valid credentials, but I used to have a credential that is expired. Okay, that is my credential is expired. You know, this token that you created from an authorized user files are valid for suppose a very short period of time. They're not created for an indefinite period of time. So it gets expired and you need to refresh it. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to refresh it. So in case I had a token.json files but it had expired, so I'm going to create.refresh and I'm going to request here. Okay, I'm going to request the API that please give me a credential file. Okay, give me a credentials, give me a issue a token because my credentials has been expired and I need to refresh it. So creates.refresh, it's also a creates is actually credentials created from credentials, so it is also a function to the credentials function. So what is that, it will send a request for refreshing the credentials. Okay, else, so what are the cases I told you that the credential is not valid but I used to have a credential, so I'll refresh it. If I don't have a credential and neither I don't have a credential before, okay, it does not exist also, but I don't have a credential. Okay, so the credit is not valid, I don't have it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to describe a flow using the installed app flow. Okay, from client secrets file. Okay, from client secrets file. Secrets, why I'm calling it secrets is that this credential.json is a very secret file. It contains data related to your Google account, so you should not publish it publicly. Okay, so it's a secrets file. Secrets are files which you should not publish publicly. So you have to write here credentials.json and you have to pass it the scopes as well. Okay, so from the client secrets file you need to pass the credentials.json scopes. What does it say? That I have a credentials.json, I require a crate. Okay, so I'm gonna require a crate. I have passed the credentials.json, so I'm not to require to make a crate. So I have to write flow run local server. Okay, run local server, port is equals to suppose 0. Okay, port is equals to 0. You don't need any ports right now. So okay, so what we're going to do, what I'm saying that I don't have a credential, so from the flow installed app flow I'm going to parse the credentials.json, run it, pass it on to the crates and follow the local run server with open. Okay, I'm going to open the token.json after, and I'm going to create the token.json. I don't have it right now, so I'm going to create it. W stands for write. Okay, what I'm going to do, I have passed the credentials of JSON into the API and I'm requesting to give me a token. So what I'm going to with open token JSON W, what I'm going to do, I'm going to request for a token as token, and I'm gonna write it in the token file, token.write to creds to underscore JSON. So what I'm doing here, so basically this is a check that whether I have the authentication or not. If I don't have a token.json file, then I will do, I will go for the credentials. Okay, then I will create a credentials from the token.json. We're gonna parse the token.json, but I don't have a token.json. So I'll check for the credentials. I don't have any credentials till now, and then if I have my credentials, had my credentials before, but it has been expired, so I'll consider a request for refreshing it. Otherwise, I'm gonna create a token for myself. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna give the credentials.json file which I created from my Google Oauth client, and I'm gonna write a token for myself. This token will be saved, and in the future this is gonna get used here. Okay, so this is how I authenticate myself. Okay, now I'm gonna try the code. Okay, so I'm gonna write here try. So what I'm going to try is basically like it's for error handling. Okay, so let me run a piece of code. If it now let me try a piece of code, and if it throws a error, then I'll show the error. Otherwise, I'm gonna show a successful message. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to define the service. What is service? Service is going to be the build. Okay, I have parsed the build function as in the forward, I guess. Okay, yeah, I have from the Oauth client discovery, I've already imported build. So I write here service build. What I'm building, I'm using the service called calendar, and I'm gonna use v3. v3 is the version 3. Okay, this is it by default. Okay, and you're gonna credentials is equals to the cred. Okay, that is what I'm doing, creds. Yeah, so what I'm doing, what I'm doing is that I'm basically try is there. So let me also define the except function as well, except HTTP error. So what I'm gonna do is that I need an error, so I'm gonna print an error here. So try, this is error handling. So I will try the piece of code here. If there is an HTTP error, so I will pass it as an error. So what I'm doing is that I'm building the service using the credentials that I am authenticated in the above code. I have authenticated myself using the token.json. Now what I'm going to do, I'm gonna build the service. So what I'm going to do, I have built the service, and I'm going to write here events is equals to service. So the service which I have built here, I'm gonna use it here, service dot events dot, what I'm going to do, I'm going to insert an event. So I'm going to do insert calendar ID. You want to give the calendar ID. By default you have a calendar ID equals to primary. Okay, by default you store it in a primary calendar. You can also use another calendar, suppose you want to store it in some other calendar of your choice. So calendar ID, and the body of the calendar will be basically the event. So now from where you're getting this event, body is equals to event, from where you're getting this event, this event is basically the dictionary which you have passed. So what I am instructing, I have built the service of calendar using the credentials from which I am authenticated. Then I am creating an events. What I am creating, I am inserting an event into the primary calendar with the body of the event that I have created beforehand. This is the event that I have created. I am passing it into the body, and then I will write here execute. Okay, upon successful completion, what I will get is that after if it is successfully executed, I will write here event created, and then upon creating the event, I want to give the link of the event, like that yes, this is created. So I will write here percentage. So I'm gonna give here events dot get the HTML link. So what I'm going to do, that upon the successful creation of the event, it will get the HTML link to the event. Okay, and then you have to return, suppose I want to return a WhatsApp message. So what I'm going to return, congratulations, the event congratulations, the event created successfully. Okay, event has been created successfully. So what I'm going to do, I'm gonna insert the event into my primary calendar. Body is going to the event that I have mentioned in the above dictionary, and I will execute it. If the event is created, it will give me with the HTML link, and it will return a message, congratulations, your event has been created successfully. Or if I get an error, what I'll write, print what error I am getting. Okay, this is essential, this is required mainly for the error handling part. And error occurred, percentage s and percentage error. Okay, percentage s and percentage error. I'm going to percentage error. Yeah. And return, I will return the WhatsApp message that couldn't create event. So I am unable to create an event. So this is the independent Python script that I have executed. So let me call it at the bottom. Okay, so let me do it, create event. So let me call the function. So what I will write, first is my, and to check whether the function is working or not. So start date, start time, end date, end time. Start start date is suppose today is 7th, so let me see this for 8 September 22. Then is the start time is suppose 6:30 p.m. and then suppose I will end it as well as in 8 September 22, or suppose 7 p.m. 7 p.m. and the name of the event is suppose snacks. Okay, so this is the generalized call for the create event. So let us see whether it works or not. So I will go to my terminal and I will write here Python 3.8 create.py. So it's written, please visit this URL to authorize this application. So as I've told you before that the credentials, I don't have a token.json. So what it is doing, it is creating one for me. So I will go to my web browser and as you can see, choose an account to continue to your application. So I will click on my Google account. Okay, this is when Google has not verified this app. Don't worry, since you have created this app, that's why Google has not verified it. So click on advanced and click go to test calendar unsafe. Don't worry, this is already still it is in the test calendar wants to access to your Google account, and then click on continue. Okay, click on continue and this written that the authentication flow has been completed. If I want to see the authentication flow has completed, you may close this window. So I have closed this window. So so I have my token.json created here. Okay, so let us now run this code. So I'll create here Python 3.8 create.py and I'm gonna run it. So it will type a please visit this URL to authorize this application. Okay, so since I don't have a token.json file, so I need to create a token.json file. So it is a choose an account to continue to test calendar. So I'm gonna open my account. Okay, so Google has not verified this app. So since this app is not been verified by Google, so it will give a prompt like this. So click on advanced and go to test calendar unsafe. Okay, now this wants to access to a Google account, just click on continue and proceed. Okay, so when you click on test calendar and proceed, you will get the message as the authentication flow has been completed. You may close this window. Okay, so I am already authenticated. Now you will see here that the event has been created. Okay, the event has been created and I got the link. Okay, so and you can also see that I got the token.json file. So I have got my token. Okay, so basically I have created the event. Okay, so let us see whether the event has been created or not. Let us go to the calendar. Okay, Google Calendar. So go to Google Calendar. Go to Google Calendar. Okay, then go to your calendar. Okay, so as you can see, I have an event called snacks. Okay, Thursday September 8 6:30 p.m. to 7 a.m. one day before you will get as an email, 10 days before you'll get a notification. Location is NIT Durgapur. Once is the location, the rule. Okay, so basically I have created the event. Now let us create simultaneously more events and let us parse them. Okay, so let us move on to the get.py. So how to get the fetch the events that has been created, upcoming events. Basically today is 7th, so I need the upcoming event. So let us parse the upcoming events. So how to do that? So let us do it. So since we have already written the code for create.py and we have seen that how to create an event in Google's calendar, it is now required to fetch the upcoming events. Okay. So what we're going to do, we're going to write the code for get.py script. So the imports are basically going to be same as that of create.py, and much of the code is going to be same except for the logic. So we're gonna copy the code for create.py and paste it in that in get.py. Okay. So as we are doing from future import print function, yeah, we're gonna require all of this. We have the same API call as well. So in define function, we're going to create another function here, that is a get event. Okay, and in a get event, we're gonna take a parameter that is a count, that is the number of upcoming events that I want to fetch. So I'm gonna take a parameter known as count. Okay, and basically I don't require this anymore because I don't have these parameters to it. I don't have the parameter of event as well. Okay, but I need the parameter to authenticate because you need to check whether or not like the token exists or not, because you need to, only an authenticated user can read and delete from your calendar. So you need to always need to check whether you have the token to or the permission to alter the events or not. So basically we're gonna try. So in the try section, that is the code that we're going to try. We're going to service build calendar credentials is equal to create. That's absolutely right. Now before doing that, let us check what is the basics of this count, like the initial value of the count. Suppose the user forgets to give the count parameter, so by default we will set it as 10. That if the user does not give us the count number, so by default it is going to be 10. Okay, so now if the user gives the count which is less than 0, it is not possible actually. Okay, so what we're gonna write, we're gonna write return invalid number, and we will ask the user to give a positive number. Okay, this is important because if we don't permit this, like if we permit this actually, then we're gonna get an error, like you cannot parse a negative integer. Okay, because it always has to be like greater than 0. Okay, and now service build calendar, yeah, we require this. Now events, now instead of events we require one more parameter here, that is the now. Okay, what is going to be now? The time, the correct time from which you are going to check, that is the present time on your clock. So how can you get it? We are going to use date time. It is an inbuilt function in Python, that is datetime dot utc now and dot iso format. Iso format is a basic standardized format, and we're going to add a z factor, like z. This is according to the conventions. So yeah, we're going to add a z to it. Now for the events, we're gonna write the events result, that is events result. That is service.events.insert. Instead of insert, we're gonna write a list. Okay, what we're gonna list calendar ID is equals to what is not equals to event. Now we're going to pass in other parameters. The other parameters are time min. Time min is the minimum time from which you're going to check, which is going to be now. That is, we are going to check from now. What is now? The current time. Okay, from current time to the number of infinite time, how many events will exist. So time min. Max results is going to be count. Max results is equals to count. By default it is 0. If the user forgets to give the count, so by default it will be 0. Single event is equals to true, because we need to permit single event because they are not double events. Single event is equals to true. And order, we need to give them a order also, like order by like sorting, like you need to sort the events according to time. So sort the events according to the start time, yeah. And dot execute, as because you need to execute it as well. Now these events get we need to store these events in the form of a list. Like we will get more than 1, right? The minimum, like the default count is 10. So we're gonna get a lot of like event results. So what we're gonna do is that we are gonna store it in the form of a list. So we're gonna write events, this is the name of the list, is equals to events underscore result dot get, and items is the like the dictionary key value which will be stored in the form of and list. Here it's an empty list. Okay, you just get the items, that is the event result. We'll get the items from it and store it in the form of a list. Okay, we don't need this actually, so we can remove it for now. And then what we're gonna do, so what we have done actually is that we have defined now, that is the current time from which we're going to check. We have passed it in the time minimum, that is from now. The maximum is equal to count, by default it is 10. If you don't specify a parameter, then it will fetch 10 results, and single event is equals to true, and order by start time, that is it will order by start time and dot execute. Okay, so events, and then we store the event results in the form of items. Okay, like the items we stored in the form of a list. Now what we're going to do that, we're going to return a string. Basically in WhatsApp message is basically consists of a string. So we'll basically return the string, that is result is equals to an empty string. We initialize an empty string called result. So there might be a situation that you don't have any upcoming events, like I don't have any event in future. So I'll write here if not events, like if the events is empty, like if I don't have anything in event. Okay, then what will I return? I will return that no upcoming events are found, like I don't have any upcoming events, no upcoming events found. Yeah, so I have no upcoming events. Okay, suppose it is completely empty, that I have searched for it but it is completely empty, so it's no upcoming found. But if it is there, then for event in events, that is it's a loop. Okay, like I'm running a loop that for every event that exists in this list, for every event that exists in this list, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna pass it in a string. So what I'm gonna do, event dot like even not sorry start, that I'm gonna take the start time dot get date time comma event start dot get and specify the date. So what I've done is that I have specified that I will like event the start time, I will get the date of the event, that is the start. Okay, what it will do is that it will get that entire dictionary, like in the create.py, it will get this date time. Okay, it will get this string. So that is what I am parsing it here in start, that for every event that I am getting in the upcoming list, it will take the event start and it will get the date time. The date time section is the like the date time from the start, it will get the date time portion at dot get date. Okay, now the default format, I will just type it here. The default format is something like this, like 2022 0602 T 17 30 00. It signifies that this is the example of the string that I can get in start. So what I will do is that, like this is the string, 2022 is the year, 6 is the month, and 2 is the date. T is the separator. Okay, like T is just a separator, like you can, it's just a standard standardization, and 17:30:00 is the time, so it's the 5:30 p.m. So what I'm going to do is that I need to separate these two. So what I'm going to do, I'm gonna slice the string. How to slice a string? I will type here date to print is equals to start from which index to which index, 0 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 and 10. So I need to slice it from 0 to 10. Okay, So what will it contain? Date to print, it will contain this portion, this 2022 0602. Okay, same, I will slice the other string, other part of the string, that is the time portion, that is the time to print, that is start from 11 to 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 18 plus 1 is 19. So I will start splice from, so what will I have? So I will basically get this portion in date to print and this portion of the string in time to print. Okay, so after I got the time and the date, I need to display it in the format. So I again need to manipulate the strings. So how to manipulate the strings? I will write final date, that is the date I need. Okay, let me store it in another variable, because in the previous example I stored it in the same variable. So let me store it in other variable. So I'll write here date time dot date time dot strp time date to print. Okay, so I'm passing the date to print here, and what is the format? 2022 0602. So what is the format is going to be? Percentage of capital Y. For references of the format specifier, you can find it in the internet. Okay, percentage M, percentage D. Okay, and then you need to convert it back to the in the time you want to display. So I want to display it in the format like 3rd Feb 2022, like this. So I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna change the format to like in the use of slash, size percentage D slash percentage M slash percentage Y. This is the format that I want to print final date. And similarly for final time, what I will wanna do is like date time dot date time dot strp time, then time to print. So I'm passing the time to print here. Similarly, I got the date to print. I told you that is the format 2022-0602, and we will get the following format, like it will be in the format like 0206 to 2022. And time to print. So what is the time to print? The time will be in the format of 17 dot colon 30 colon 00. So it will be in the format of percentage H, percentage M, and percentage S. Okay, but we need to convert it to like in the IP format. So it will be percentage I to percentage I, percentage M, and give a space, and percentage P. Okay, so it will show it in the form of 5:30 p.m. So 17 colon 30 colon 00 will be printed as 5:30 p.m. and in this case, and in the previous case 2022-0602 will be printed in the form of 02/06/2022. Now what we're going to do is that I have initialized an empty string here, that is result is equal to, I'm going to append the result in empty string. So what we're going to do, we have to do result is plus equals to, what I'm going to pass is that I'll pass the date first. So final date plus give a space, then final time, then give a space, and I need to get the summary of the event, that is the name of the event. The name of the event is stored in summary, so I need to get the summary. So I'm going to get a summary, event summary, and I need to give a line break. So how to give a line break? Plus percentage n, like a slash, escape character and n. So you're gonna give escape n. Yeah. So what is gonna do? It is going to shift to the next line. So you'll get a date, time, summary, then next line, then again date, time, summary, next line, until then you reach the count, or as long as you have an upcoming event. And after getting the result, we need to return the result as well. So we're going to return the result outside the loop. Okay, because if we return inside the loop, then after one iteration it will return the, it will exit the function. So we will return it outside the loop, return result. Okay, and for the error part, we will return that we will print that an error occurred, and error, and print would be could not list event. Okay, we could not list the event. Now let us see it in action. So I thought the get event, and the parameter I need to pass it as an integer. Okay, count is equals to 10. Yeah, I'm gonna write here print get event 10. As far as I know that there is only one upcoming event that we have created in the previous section, that is the snacks one. So we're gonna run it in the terminal. So we're gonna create here Python. See that already we have a token, so it is not gonna authenticate once again. So we can directly write it as Python 3.8 get.py. So it will take some time, and okay, we got an error in get event. Get event, like, okay, I think we have an error in get event. A single event or events, get.py. Yeah, it is single event, sorry, single events is equals to true. So if we run it right now, yeah, so as you can see that I got my, like, the desired event. Like, since I have given a minimum count of 10, here I have given a minimum count of 10, but since there are only one event, so we got only 10. Matlab, since there is only one event that we have, so that's why it did not run up to 10. So up to 1 it searched, then it exited. Okay, so this is what we have in get.py. Now we need to integrate both this create.py script and the get.py script in our Flask server. So how to do that? So we are gonna use that, integrate this, import these functions back in the app.py, and we are gonna integrate it. So we are going to now write the code for the app.py. So we have already created the two functions, that is the create.py. We're gonna remove this from the bottom, okay, and get.py. Okay, so we have the two functions, there is the get event and the create event. So we are gonna go to the app.py and import them. So from create, import create event, and from get, import get event. Okay, now the app is equal to flask.name, which is used for initializing and Flask app. Okay, so we are gonna take on to the root for the app.root for /sms. For the /sms route, we are gonna method is equals to post. So we're gonna define a function as sms. So we're gonna write this like sms underscore reply. So we're gonna change the function name, and we're not gonna write a message there. So we're gonna change it. Okay, so what we're gonna do is that we're gonna write the message here in the form of msg. Message is gonna write is equals request dot form dot get from the body. Okay, so request dot form dot get body. So what is request? I need to also import request, I guess, from Flask. Yes, from Flask I need to import request as well. So request dot form dot get the body. So we will get the body of the message, and we'll also get the phone number. Okay, I need the message and the phone number. The phone number is basically going to be the number of the Twilio. So basically phone number is equals to request form. So since we are requesting form, since it's a post request, so we are gonna get the request form, and we are gonna get the form. So it's going to be from whom is being sent. Okay, so we are gonna take the message, that is the request dot form dot get the body of the message, and the phone number, that is the request from get from which number it's coming. So that is the Twilio bot. Okay, so what we can write that if the message starts with create. Okay, we need to parse the string, right? Now the user will give the input as a string. We need to pass them into the parameters. Okay, we need to pass them as a parameter. The user will write create. Suppose they will write create start date, end date, start time, end time, and the event name. So it will be in the form of a continuous string. We need to break the string and pass them as individually as parameters. So we're going to do that. So we'll get the message that the user has given. Suppose the user has given a request to create an event. So if the message starts with create, starts with the function which checks whether the first string matches the its or not. If it matches, if the user wants to create, so we're gonna write that start date, then it will provide me with the start time, then I guess end date and end time. Okay, these are the parameters I will get from where message dot split within spaces. So it will be space separated values. So we will split it by spaces and we will store it in the form of 1 to 5. So the first 4, so 1 2 3 4 and 4 plus 1 is 5. So the first 4 strings I will pass it in start date, start time, end date and end time separated by space. So let me give you an example right here. So how it works, suppose I'm going to write it in the comment, like the user will write here create, then he will write suppose 6 Feb 22 7:30 PM, and then you write 8 Feb 22 9:30 PM. Okay, and then the name of the event. Okay, so what it will do, the start date, the message will check whether it is starting with create or not. If it starts with create, then it will pass the string, like the start date, that is the first string will be passed into start date, this string will be passed into start time, the next string will be passed into end time, and the next string will be passed into the end time, and the name. Now we have to write, give the name. Now the name can be the rest of the string, which can be space separated as well. So we cannot do it by that, because otherwise it will take 2 arguments separately as events. Like, so what we'll do is that we'll write the event name, event name as a empty string, and we will take as an event list. Okay, event list as message dot split from like the space separated value. So what we're going to do is that from 5 onwards, okay, I'm not mentioned here. Okay, so from 5 onwards, what is going to do, so what is going to do is that from 5 onwards, the rest of the string, it will store it in the event list and as initialize the event name as string. So what I'm going to do, I'll run a list I'll run a loop like for I in event list. What I'm going to do, I'm going to add it to event name plus minus equals to I plus a space. Okay, and then what I'm going to do, I'm going to fetch it in reply, just as you've seen in the last day. So what we're going to do, reply is equals to create event, then basically we need to copy this only, start date, start event. Okay, so this is what we have. Okay, and now we are gonna look for the list event. Okay, this is a normal one, yeah. Okay, now if the message starts with list, okay, MSG not defined, yeah. Okay, if the MSG starts with list and if the length of the message, if there is a parameter present, like we are going to check whether the user has provided us with a parameter or not. So if it is greater than 1, okay, if it is greater than 1, that means the user has specified us with the parameter. So what we're going to do is that we write here count it equals to message dot split. We're gonna split the screen by space. Suppose he has given me, suppose with list 5. So the length will be 2. If he does not provide me, then the length will be 1. So if the length is greater than 1, that means he has provided me with the count. So count will be the message dot split, the second part. That is the second part, the second parameter. Okay. And now I will write here reply. Now what I send in the reply, get event and as int count. Okay, I need to typecast it into int. By default it parse it as a string, or else what I will write, just write get reply. So by default it will be 10. Get reply, sorry, get event. So by default it will be up to 10. Okay, else if it is not also, so it will be elif, sorry. Okay, so basically what is going to happen is that else what we're going to do is that we're going to give a standardized reply, that is the help reply. So what we're going to do, we are going to write the following line size, that is here please enter a valid command. That is, if it does not start with list or create, then we ask the user to enter a valid command. That is, please enter a valid command. Like we'll give them a help section, help 1. We're going to write the same one, create 6 September 22 8:30 PM or 7 September 22 6:30 PM, and that they are hackney. Okay, or we can do list suppose 5. Okay, call a number, and what we're gonna do is that we're gonna send it to a reply. So we're gonna use the messaging response that we used in the last day from Twilio. Yeah, messaging response, and we're gonna send it in the message. What we're gonna do in the message, we're gonna send the reply as the message. Okay, and we're gonna return the string of the response. Okay, and we're gonna run app.run and debug is equals to true. Okay, so this is the Flux application that we have made. Now we're gonna soon going to run it, so let us see it. Okay, so this is what we have till now, and next we will see it in action.
Okay, so it marks the end of our today's session in HackMe. We got through a lot of code, but let's see what we have created so far. So first we will try to send some random message and see how our sandbox behaves. See a hello. Okay, so we are prompted by our machine to enter a valid command. So let's try out the list end command. So as we can see here, the list end command always lists the event that are created by us. So far I have, for my test purposes, created one single event, so it just only lists one command, one event. So let us try to create another event. So let us just copy it. Let's give our event some name like test event. Let us give it a new date. let us send it. Okay, so we have sent our event, and as we can see, we have been told congratulations, event created successfully. So now let us list our events again. List. So as we can see, a new event is being created and it is shown as test event. So this shows that we can list various events as per our own schedule and store them in the Google Cloud and get notified and can see them through our WhatsApp bot. So this is what we have built in this 2-day sessions of HackMe using very simple lines of code which didn't require any prerequisites. So with this, you people can develop much more features on top of this and see the code base. The code base will be given in the YouTube description. You can see it, learn from it and build much more stuff using these simple lines of code. And so keep learning and may the source be with you.
Back from the dead.